各位听众晚上好，我是主持人郑普杰。我们今天有一个嘉宾陈斌老师，这个是Arcadia 高中的音乐老师。如果大家想要领略这个陈老师的风采的话呢，我在那个大家可以到 YouTube 上的去找哈，找这个 Arcadia Vertical Suppe 拼法是 SUPPE 这3个字，你去查就可以查出来。这是什么时候的？2个礼拜以前是吧？
对，2个礼拜。
2个礼拜以前陈老师的风采哈，I'm totally impressed 。欢迎到我们的节目，
谢谢。
我们讲过这个Arcadia 这个教育其实挺有意思的。我以前讲过我小孩跟着这个就是这个 First Avenue 的音乐老师Mr. Danielson 邀请我小孩，因为他在6年级，他不是在 band 里头，邀请他跟着去看一遍，所以他就跟着去了，把我也带去了。然后他们这个 First Avenue 这个实际上是 middle school 初中的这个乐队，把好几个高中乐队都给打败了。所以这个其实音乐这音乐教育其实我觉得是挺难的，就是为什么Arcadia 这个音乐教育可以那么成功
？Arcadia 的 community 就是很支持音乐。如果community 不支持的话，那其实很难。那有 Arcadia 的 population，有很多Chinese and Korean and 所以其实黄种人比较
多
对音乐比较有那个 appreciation。因为在台湾或者大陆韩国，他们全部都是在从小的时候都会有音乐教育。那在美国有比较不一样。可是在 Arcadia High School 是1952年开始的。那有一个特殊就是，
你说 high school 开始还是音乐课开始？哇 ，OK。
high school， 可是从他们开始的时候就有音乐课，然后从1952年到现在都那个音乐教育都没有停。弦乐团也是都是从1952年来到现在都有。
但是他是这些初中的小孩可以把高中小孩打败，这个是而且他们是一个是列队，一个是音乐，两方面 sweepstake 全给他们一个初中的一个学校拿了。我看了，我这个有点不太相信这件事情。
Arcadia 的小孩子很有一个 sense of competitiveness。每一个人都是全部都要得第一名。
How do you get them to be competitive? To have that sense?
I don't know. I think 就是那个 culture， 就是从小嘛。
How do you get that culture?
The culture, some of it is from the parents. 那家长都是要他们的小孩子都是第一名嘛。那在美国的教育，平常没有说你是这班的first place or second place， 其实没有那样子的。可是如果家长是比较used to 这个第一名、第二名、第三名，那just internally 他们就有这种drive， 要do the very best that you can。那我们在 Arcadia 的老师都是我们有很好的music teachers， and 我们就是很 supportive 可是也是有很高的那个 standards。所以我 personally 如果不好的话，I don't have any problems telling them that was bad, that was terrible, like we need to make that better。那有一些音乐老师有可能就说that sounds good, that's nice, okay, let's keep going。可是音乐是for enjoyment， 可是你也是要用音乐教他们其他的。
It's easier to do that, to say you're good, this is nice, and then incremental improvements.
Right.
But that doesn't really get them anywhere.
Yeah, it makes them feel good, but you don't learn as much.
But once you start driving, more or less you're trying to get them to do what they're not automatically willing to do.
对 Yeah.
And that's a problem.
So yeah, I think with music, I teach music because it's enjoyable. It's a whole lot more fun. And,
Why
and
do you choose
maybe a math teacher will say, well, math is enjoyable.
Everyone,
But, for me, music is my life. I started when I was 3 singing in the church choir, and then 5, I started teaching private violin lessons when I was 15.
Wow, okay.
And my dad was my violin teacher, so it just kind of runs in my family. So it's
you started to make money early.
well, yes, I did actually. But it's more of a music runs in my blood, and it's what I think makes us human. And through music, you can teach a lot more than just music itself. You can teach, perseverance and teamwork and leadership. But it also allows you to express what you want to express without words.
Before we get to all that, how do you get them to start to like music?
So it comes from the parents.
A lot of people they know the bang bang bang, they know that.
Yeah.
But that's not quite what we're talking about.
Yeah, especially when you have to start when you're very, very young. And it's the parents' job to help them develop this sense of, music is important. And so you need to play music at home. Just recordings, and take them to concerts, because if they don't hear it and they don't see it, they don't know what they're missing out on.
Let's say I'm a parent. I know nothing about music, and there are definitely a variety of choices of places I can take them to. How should I start? Well, in terms of how to get an easy start from that perspective.
Yeah. Well, something that's really easy is, the good thing is we live in, here in the San Gabriel Valley. We live in a really culturally rich area. Where you can go and see concerts for free or very, very cheap. And there's so many different organizations that you can go see. Pasadena Symphony, you've got the California Symphony, of course you have the LA Phil, and you can even go to the colleges and just go and go see a student recital. Or, like Arcadia High School, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you take your little kid to go and see him, like, whoa, you don't have to stay for 2 hours, but even if you just let them see a half hour. Like, whoa, that's really cool, Daddy. I want to go do that.
I say that soupe piece is professional.
Well, thank you. But yeah, you have to immerse them in that world and expose them to it before they can realize, oh, this is something that I would like to do.
So now they have a bit of interest in this. How do you move forward?
So once you kind of spark that interest in them,
we're talking about what kind of age? 2, 3, 4.
Oh yeah, you can. I mean, you can start. Well, technically for me, I think my parents started me when I was in the womb. They were already playing music all the time, and then once I actually came into this world, still just music every single day, playing on the radio.
Yeah. Actually, that's good. But maybe I should interrupt just to say something in Chinese here.
Sure.
我们这怎么说？我们这是一个中文台啊。陈老师来的时候事先宣布哈，他的英文不太好，所以说说音乐的时候最好用英文来说。但是我相信我们这儿的听众也都听得懂音乐，听得懂英文的，所以我们就讲英文，这样的话这个我们对音乐的讨论会比较深刻一点。Okay, yeah. Now, back to what we're talking about. So now they have a spark of well, actually, there's something to be said about playing music while pregnant.
Yeah.
It does work.
It does.
I know it. You play music when they're excited, they kick a lot more than normal. That I know. And,
absolutely.
It was fascinating. Even just to test how active the baby is, and that's a nice thing to do. But anyway, let's say we didn't do that, and we started whatever age. And when the kids start to be interested in music, what should we do?
So kids can get started in music as young as, say, 3 years old, because they have a voice. they can sing. So as young as that, they don't necessarily need to have a teacher, at 3 years old. I mean, if you just play music for them, they want to sing, they can sing. There are classes for 3-year-olds, but, once they get to about 4 or 5, depending on the kid's maturity level, you can start to get them involved in, playing either string instruments, because they make tiny little violins for tiny little hands.
Okay, yeah.
Or you can get them again in choir and singing, and doing all of that. Piano is a good start too.
Yeah, let's go through this because I have bad. I have bad stories because I bought these small pianos for them to play. Of course, they can't play the real one, and they don't do anything. So realistically, let's say 3. What can I do?
Sing.
Kids
sing.
Sing is.
Violin, 3 years old is a little early for most. Okay. Now, there are some kids that can handle it, and it has to do more with their attention span.
Right, that's so true.
That is the biggest thing, because if they can't stay still, it's hard to get them to be able to do anything.
Yeah.
So you have to gauge the kid. Okay. And if they're just not having it and they're just kind of put it down, then it's okay to wait another year.
How do you get them to start an instrument anyway? My kids start on 5th grade, and actually. When he started to teach me, I was doing things in the radio station. So the listeners, long time listeners, know how good my saxophone is.
It's great, right?
No. That was just to showing something can happen to even somebody this old.
Yeah, no, it's actually true. I mean, it's never too late to play music, and it's never too early to at least start the music education process.
How do I determine an instrument?
So you let the kid kind of decide in the sense that you expose them.
He said he doesn't like it. This is actually my story. He said he doesn't like it.
Okay, at all.
At all, yeah. At the end of the 3rd grade, and they give everybody a sheet of music. Say 4th grade, there's an elective, and he threw that away. So when he was going on to the 5th, I have a daughter a year later, and she brought back that sheet of paper and saying there is an elective music lesson. Then
I see.
Actually, I picked that. I picked saxophone. I don't know how you go about it.
So I mean, part of the reason maybe why there's a lot of things that go into why a kid wants to do something or doesn't want to do something. It could be just their friends, like, well, none of my friends are doing it, so I don't really want to do it because my friends aren't there. Or some of it's just they don't know enough, and so if they don't know, they won't know that they want to do it. That goes back to you got to expose them to it. And just that little bit of like a music teacher saying, oh, hey, you might want to do this is not necessarily enough. So again, taking them to concerts and exposing them to sort of those cultural things is a very, very important thing.
He liked music from early on, I would say. But somehow he just thought that's just something that he would listen to. He wouldn't play it. Somehow, I don't know how that got into his head, but maybe his friends.
So, I mean, I think, not only seeing professionals, because sometimes kids may think, oh, well, only adults can do that. There's no way I could ever become that. But if you take them to a middle school concert, you take them to a high school concert, then it's like, oh, wait a second. That's only they're only 5 years older than me, and they can do that? That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then they can get inspired.
That's so true because it's side by side.
Right.
He started to learn this stuff in October, and coming around, I forgot when they told him that. January, probably it's somewhere there. They told him, you can go to side by side. At that time, he's squeaking all over the place. And he was crying at home. He was doing it crying because I don't know anything about it. I cannot help him. And the teacher in elementary school, they got so many kids. They can't really help him. So he just struggled through this whole thing. And it's at the night after the concert. I mean, all these kids are shining.
Yeah, exactly. Because and we love doing those things like that. The side-by-side concert. For the listeners who don't know what that is, we have our top high school kids playing alongside these third, fourth, fifth graders, which is the cutest thing in the world. But more importantly, it's and it's free. And these kids really get inspired by seeing these other young people, and knowing that they can do that in a couple of years, and they have a sort of goal to aspire to, and things like that are really, really important. And if with school orchestra or school band, just basically if a school offers some sort of music class, get your kid in it, whether they want to do it or not.
That's I don't know why my kid lent me that kind of trust. I told him to go do saxophone because he said, well, I don't know, whatever. So I look around and see what they do well. It's between saxophone and trumpet. And I have no idea which way to go. And then I know in a classical orchestra there's no saxophone
unless you're doing 20th century music.
Right. So from the standpoint of versatility, I should go with trumpet. But then I was told trumpet is harder to blow. Is that right?
They're different. They're all difficult in their own ways.
Yeah.
So for my recommendation, usually like with trumpet, if you have like really thick, meaty lips, it's probably not a good instrument for you.
Okay.
But something like, say, baritone or trombone, or if we're talking older kids, then tuba, like that would be great. Just physical anatomy sort of thing. So that's something a music teacher can
talk to somebody who knows.
Yeah,
talk
like to talk to an expert. But as far as like picking an instrument, it's true. I mean, not every instrument is good for every student. So if that means that after a year you have to change it because they don't really like it, that's okay, because at least during that year it wasn't a waste of time. They still learned how to play music.
My daughter started with clarinet, and then she said she wanted to do what her brother was doing, then she switched up to saxophone.
And that's perfectly fine. And I think just seek out the experts in the field, basically.
We gotta go to commercials. We'll be right back. 欢迎回到我们的节目，我是郑普杰。现在是9:27。今天我们的嘉宾是 Arcadia High School 的陈斌老师。因为我们陈老师的我们讲音乐的时候嘛，总还是讲英语比较对陈老师来讲比较方便，所以我们今天在用英语讲这个问题。但是呢，我们再讲一段以后呢，我们会开线让大家提问题。所以呢，有问题的朋友可以用中文来问，因为陈老师确实可以听得懂中文。We're talking about selecting a instrument for the children, and once a child pick up a instrument, there is a learning curve. I'm sure in violin they'll be sawing woods for a while.
Oh yeah, it'll sound like dying chickens for a while, but that's okay. You just have to put up with it.
It's very boring. I mean, even piano, this don't make a whole lot of sense, those combinations or whatever. How do you get them to? I know my kids got over that because of the pressure of side by side. When he's in no way ready, and they put him into that, so they have to get through it. And I know he was crying a lot of times. He was crying, working. Other than that kind of a pressure, because I don't think anybody can automatically get that. How do you get through this sort of initial learning curve?
So that's part of it, is that when you have music instruction, you have to balance it out with drill and also making music, like actually playing songs and playing pieces where they can feel like, wow, I can play Mary Had a Little Lamb. That's awesome. Oh, this is Row, Row, Row Your Boat. So having those little tiny goals, and even asking your child to kind of perform for you and encouraging them in that way is really, really important. And things like side by side where they have this goal. Performance is a natural part of music. And music is something that just is made to be shared, especially with some kids who take private lessons, like like, say, piano. It's very insular sometimes because they sit there by themselves and they play, and then they start to lose motivation because they're not playing with other people. And so given the nature of what music is, it's meant to be shared, not just, as a performance, but to be played with other people. So to get them experiences playing with other people is a huge motivating factor.
I have a friend that she played piano since whenever. She said when she was a kid, and her nightmares are basically all piano lessons.
I think there's also that balance between expecting a good performance and something that's perfect. It's not going to be perfect. There has to be enjoyment in it.
Right, at least not nightmare. Right?
Yeah, and it's scary. But that's part of the whole learning process, and that's building character, which is also part of what music education is all about, which is, learning not just, how to play, but learning the value of hard work and what that gets you, and also maybe even disappointment where, oh man, I didn't play that as well as I really wanted to, but I'm going to do better next time.
Yeah, but my kids, the side-by-side preparation goes about, I think, a couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
So he took it without a lot of damage.
Mm-hmm.
But
you did say that there was crying and working and crying and working and crying and working.
Yeah, he was pushing. And then we had the concert. After he come back, he blew for another hour, which is, I think it's a Friday. And then he lied on bed for 3 days straight. When he was a little bit clearer, then he'd say, take the computer out and play the concert, because I taped the concert.
But he felt good about it in a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah. He felt like a hero. The thing is, if I don't have the side-by-side, I think he's more of a product of opportunity. It's a great opportunity that the school district is offering to him. And he got to play, and he gave the high school guys, the two high school guys helping him out, and he gave him a nickname, and these two started use that nickname to call each other, and he thought he's a big shot at that point. It meant a lot, but not kind of for everybody, I guess. Well, from a more... But I don't need to be theoretical. Your teacher is
sure. And again, like I said, with finding opportunities, and getting over those humps where the kid is, starting to feel like, oh, this is a lot of work. I don't know if I really want to do this, and I don't even know if I like it anymore. As a parent or as a teacher, you have to kind of keep nudging them along, because, let's be real with young people and children, like, they don't always know what they want.
Right. And your teacher,
they have their emotions. They're very emotional, and you have to acknowledge their emotion, that I understand you're sad or you're frustrated. Right. But, let's set this goal here. Like, can we play, let's just keep playing at this for at least another 3 months. Give me 3 months. And then we can discuss this again and see if you actually still want to do it. Again, setting those little markers and checkpoints so that they have something that they're looking forward to. And I guarantee you, within those 3 months, they will find moments where they like it. And there will be moments where they hate it. And then at the end of that, you have to just kind of analyze, all right, is this still something they really want to do? But what I run into as a music teacher sometimes is, people who give up too easily.
Yeah, let's just for you continue your example. After 3 months, you say, I don't want to do it anymore.
And if that's really the case, we have to really talk about, like, well, okay, number one, why is it that you don't like it anymore? Is it just the sound of the instrument you really don't like? Maybe we need to change instruments. Is it really that you really hate music, which usually is not the case. They don't hate music. It's more like they just don't want to practice.
Right.
And I lived and breathed music. I started playing violin when I was 6 years old, and my dad was my violin teacher, and that's difficult. I mean, I've got somebody at home who's always telling me to practice, and even though I love music, I mean, right now, this music is my life. But when I was a kid, you had to get me to practice because I didn't really want to do it. Just like you have to get your kids to do their homework. Most kids are not going to want to do their homework every single day. You have to push them to do it.
So they, they know they have. This is not exactly like homework. They can choose not to do it.
Yes and no. But yeah, I mean, if you're paying for lessons and you're paying for them to be in these classes, or that you paid for that instrument to rent, things like that. It's like, well, you got to stick with this, at least for a while, and then we can see where we're going from here. But I think that it's definitely worth trying to get them to continue if for some reason there's reasons that they don't really want to. Changing instruments is usually a good alternative, because then at least they're still continuing that music instruction, and they can find and settle on one that they actually want.
Okay. Well, one of my problems, my kids never been to any private lessons because I don't know the field, so to speak. I'm pretty sure most of the parents don't know. What I'm afraid of is maybe the teacher pushed too hard. Then I know all teachers are really, really good, and that's part of my problem. You have somebody really, really, really good and saying you're stupid. When you're really pushing, right? Sometimes what happens, then they will be convinced that they are stupid. Then I'm gonna end up with a bigger problem.
Yeah, I mean, you have to find a good fit for the teacher.
How do you go about?
So I would recommend that if you are looking for a good private teacher, that you ask friends, ask around, people who have their kids in private instruction. Ask the music teachers for recommendations, the school music teachers, I mean, and other music teachers around, just for reference purposes, and then have some sort of a trial lesson, where it's like, okay, because it's an interview process. Not only is the teacher trying to see if they're a good fit for the student, but the student to see if they're a good fit. Because some kids really need to be pushed. Maybe some kids need to, be told like, hey, you know what, this is not working. And some kids really need to be coddled a little bit more, and that's okay. And some teachers are a little bit more flexible in that way. So, I teach private violin and viola lessons, and I approach each student a little bit differently, and you can kind of push them, and see like, all right, if they're not practicing, then you try and be a little bit harsher and see how they react, and if the reaction isn't so good and doesn't mean that they're going to work any harder, then you try a different approach.
For you're sort of interested in music education, not for everybody, and they're beautiful on their whatever instruments and music, but they're not really sort of. From a theoretical standpoint, at least, understanding how to push these sort of things. And then they can, they're all good intentions, they push the wrong direction.
Something to kind of keep in mind is that sometimes the best performer is not necessarily the best teacher.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Let me tell you how I taught my son how to. I don't remember from what year. I bought him a set of piano. So self-teach, whatever, those kind of courses. So a friend of mine is a professor, very famous professor. Anyway, come to my home and say, "What is he doing in there?" I said, "He's teaching himself piano." I said, "Are you kidding?" I said, "No. I bought him a real lesson, and then he's gonna teach you." He said, "He's not gonna do it right, are you? Do you think?" I said, "I don't care. I think it's good for him to struggle through this stuff." That's my purpose. Purpose for him to struggle through. Partly is I don't know where to send to. Probably because I'm lazy, and the other thing is, I don't know how. I want to hear what you want to say about it. Is for himself to figure this out, and that's figuring out all of these relationships with kids, whatever, and then he'll have some sense or something. He'll teach himself something rather than. Because I don't play piano either. What do you think?
Yeah, I think for things like teaching yourself, because I mean, at that time, was he already getting music instruction from school, and then he just kind of added on?
No, he never.
Oh, you never did.
The first time he got instructions from anywhere was in 5th grade.
Oh, okay. You have to be a little bit careful about the self-instruction thing, just because if you're teaching yourself, I mean, of course, you're capable of teaching yourself certain things, but one of those things that you might be teaching yourself is bad habits.
Right.
And it takes a very, very long time to break those bad habits. So, you kind of have to think about like if it's, what's the reason for that? For for doing the self-teaching thing, if it's a financial thing. There are a lot of organizations out there that have lessons and classes that are for very little fees.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And
I know that the cultural center of Arcadia or a community center, whatever they call it. They offer stuff like that.
Yeah, there's community centers. You have things like YMCA. There's after school programs that are either sponsored by the school or sometimes by nonprofits. I run one of them, Crescendo Young Musicians Guild, and I started that about 5-6 years ago. And the purpose really was a lot of our programs are in LA Unified, and they just slashed a lot of their funding for music education. And those poor kids do not have any chance to learn music anywhere.
Right.
And they can't afford it at all.
Right.
They're not going to be able to, get lessons anywhere else. And so, I just wanted to make sure that we could fill in that gap.
Yeah, at least, we can,
and then,
few, right?
And, if they can barely pay for their lunches, how are they going to, be able to, play an instrument?
I'm more when I was doing it, I'm more like, I didn't think this music thing is going to be anything serious. Mm-hmm. But it turned to be a lot more serious because of this side by side, because of all of this fifth grade stuff, and I didn't expect that. So
and those kinds of things, really, I mean, I'm sure you'll never forget what your kid looked like when they came home, or even just right after. It was like just
right after he was lying on bed. He was laying on bed puking greenish water for a while.
But he's never gonna forget that experience either, and that's the kind of thing that you hold on to. That it's that sense of accomplishment.
Yeah, that's the first time I think he really felt what a heroic effort feels like.
And it takes that hard work that you really, really need. Absolutely.
All right, we're gonna go into commercials, and we'll come back and we'll take phone calls. 我们现在去广告，回来以后呢，我们会接电话。大家如果要是对小孩的音乐教育有什么问题的话呢，我们现在有 Arcadia High School 的陈老师来给大家解答。OK， 我们先去广告。欢迎回到我们的节目，我是主持人郑普杰。现在是9点45分。我们今天的嘉宾是 Arcadia High School 的陈斌老师。我们如果听众有关这个音乐方面的问题，可以打电话过来。我们这里的电话是626-585-1300。这位听众你好，你在线上。
两位好，我很高兴你今天提这个标题来哈。我来了美国以后，我有深深感触哈。美国这个音乐教育非常贫乏，因为他小学几乎没有音乐课。OK， 我记得当年我从国内来美国的时候，我除了学英文了、考托福了，还 learn American culture, American folk song. See, like the my old Kentucky home, old folks at home, old Black Joe, carry me back to old Virginia.Oh, Susanna, those songs, American folk songs,
do you have a question?
结果怎么样你知道？到这边来美国，他们没人听过这些歌，下一代人他们也没听过这些歌。当然有少数人去参加那种乐队了 band 啊 orchestra， 少数中的少数，对不对？而且怎么样的？他们这些歌，我们记得以前国内时候学了爱国歌曲以后，学国歌以后，当然还要学一些地方上的民谣，然后每个国家的民谣介绍，这边他没有这个东西，他小孩都背什么 Michael Jackson 啊，什么那个 rap music， 就是，然后这边
我觉得我听到你的那个问题了，谢谢你啊。Okay, this is about I don't mean Michael Jackson's in any way non-music, but there is an aspect of these folk music lost. What do you?
Actually, if you look at method books that a lot of beginners use, all those folk songs are in there. So things like Old Folks at Home, I have all of my students play that. So yeah, you hear all of those folk songs early on. Now, as far as whether they perform that at the band level and orchestra level later on, those are usually not played as much anymore. But I would actually have to
experiences, right?
And
also in elementary school here, 4th graders and 5th graders, they have music classes.
So I think if you look into formal music education in the schools, they are teaching legit music. And if you find that they're not, then you need to tell them, tell whoever is in charge that, hey, there's kind of a problem. Yeah, and if they're not playing Mozart, they're not playing Beethoven, they're not playing Bach, something is wrong.
Right.
Especially at, if you're playing string music and things like that. Now, even say saxophone, like your son, they can play just as well with all of the classical training,
right.
Because that gives you the fundamentals to be able to say later on if they want to play Michael Jackson music, that's okay.
Right.
But without those fundamentals, you can't do that. And say for instance, there are a lot of pop singers out there now who have classical training, and they're the better singers anyway.
And also those folk songs are very good to teach them how to write music.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the simplest composition, like you make it sound good.
Yeah, ABA form, it's simple.
Yeah. OK， 我们的电话哈，我们这电话是6265851300。我们今天这个是跟Arcadia 高中的陈斌老师在一起讲音乐教育。Okay, nobody's calling. So how let's say they my knowledge about all of this is at 6th grade level.
Okay.
What's beyond 6th grade? I don't know.
Again, that depends on where you live, where you're fortunate to live or not.
Oh yeah, right. There's another problem.
And like the caller was saying that it's very true. There is a lack of music education,
right.
like
he may
quality
be calling
music
from
education.
certain areas.
It's very, very true. There's a lack
true,
of music education at the elementary level, and that's actually where it really needs to start because, as far as philosophically speaking, you think about students learning languages. And they learn, a language way better when they're younger,
right.
And even like foreign language. I think he's right. American education kind of has it backwards, because when they're young, that's the prime time for them to be able to learn these sort of things.
Do they have this stuff in, let's say, Temple City? Do they have an elementary?
I'm not necessarily familiar with that. I think that they do have some. Where I grew up, we had some general music. Irvine.
Oh,
Irvine.
Okay.
We had general music education, sort of like maybe once a week at like 1st through 3rd grade.
But that's what they have here.
Same idea.
Yeah, once a week, twice a week.
Which is a little bit. I think they need a little bit more than that, honestly. And then at the 4th grade level, they start getting introduced to string instruments, and then 5th grade is wind instruments.
Yeah.
Personally, I think that the string instruments need to be started even earlier than 4th grade.
Right, yeah.
But that's just the
wind is a little better.
Yeah.
Actually,
now, wind, you just simply don't have the lung capacity to be able to play, the saxophone when you're in 2nd grade. You just physically can't do it. But they make tiny little violins for tiny little people to be able to start when they're 5 years old.
So let's delve into a little bit of what I don't know. What are the issues with the high schoolers?
The issues with high school?
Okay, let's get this. Let's get a viewer's question. Yeah, please answer the question.
我还有一个很感触的地方，就是说，他音乐教育在贫乏的时候，在经济情况坏的时候，在看当。你觉得这个现在经济会复苏，有这个音乐教育会不会再提升一点？我想问这个老师问题。
Okay.
Sorry, I don't understand the term.
As the economic environment start to change, would that impact the musical education?
Yeah, it does. Unfortunately, especially with the recession from a couple of years ago, they did cut a lot of it. And that's why, some districts such as, LA Unified, they just cut a lot of stuff, and they wiped out elementary music at most of the schools, which again is very, very backwards. I taught for 2 years in LA Unified at a high school. It's inner city, low income, socioeconomically disadvantaged. And a lot of those kids were coming with me with zero experience in music whatsoever.
Oh.
And so I was starting them at 9th grade, trying to teach them how to play violin, how to play, flute, stuff like that. And the cool thing is that, those kids really wanted it. But the sad thing is that they really needed it earlier.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
then we'll have to pretty much finish here. Okay. 我们节目的录音都可以通过pujie.com 右上角的链接收听或者订阅，欢迎大家访问，欢迎大家批评。我是主持人郑普杰，谢谢陈斌老师今天来做我们的嘉宾，祝各位晚安。